No, I do not want to delve into your query, but I do want to talk about the 4 ways that you can stop hitting your Claude limit. And they're pretty freaking easy, because this first tip is all about converting files. So if you're uploading a ton of long format files, like multiple PDFs, things that need context for Claude to remember in order to perform a certain skill or remember certain context, you need to have Claude convert those files. So what you do is you upload the PDF, you ask Claude to convert it into a markdown, and you save that markdown. The reason is every single time that Claude goes to that markdown, now it's actually just looking at the text-based portion of your PDF. That's what the markdown is. It just extracts the text. So instead of it looking at a whole entire raw PDF, it's just looking at the text, which is really all it needs in order to get the context. Tip number 2, pick the right model. So 3 different models. Haiku is the lowest consumption model. So I'm always using this for drafts, for quick tasks, for quick questions that I need answers to. That is the go-to model. Lowest consumption, just think quick tasks. That's your go-to. The next model is Sonnet. And Sonnet has the next level up in terms of consumption. So I'm using Sonnet for my deep work. I'm using it for strategizing, for creating slide decks. I'm also using it for things like prepping me for my meetings and giving me a digest of my week based off of all of the events and emails that I have access to. And then you have your third model that uses the most consumption in terms of tokens, and that would be Opus. Opus is my go-to for coding. So anytime I am building a landing page, I am editing code, I'm searching for errors in code, anything that requires deep reasoning, a special skill, that's what I'm using Opus for, because it is the highest cost in terms of tokens, and it does bleed through consumption pretty rapidly. So make sure that you're matching your task with the model that can perform the task with the lowest amount of consumption, but the most accurate. Okay, tip number 3, make sure you're turning off features that you don't need to use for that task. So let's just say you go into Claude and by default, all of your connectors are on. Web search is on, extended thinking is on. With all of these on automatically, they're already costing you more tokens because Claude is actually using every single one of those connectors that you already have on in order to give you a good response. That means it's using every single connector that is toggled on. If you have deep research toggled on, it's using that for your response. It doesn't matter if your response was, what's the weather like today? It's using every single connector that you have turned on. So turn them off by default. And tip number 4, my biggest piece of advice here is plan in the chat and then actually build what you want in cowork. That way the thinking is the lower consumption in the chat. And then when you're building and you're tapping into that higher consumption, that's when you're actually in cowork. You're going to run through tokens very quickly if you're doing your ideating and your building in cowork. It's not meant to be used for those same capabilities. So an example of this last one would be, let's just say you are in Claude and you're specifically within the chat and you're asking it to outline a presentation for you that takes in the QBR meeting and your KPIs and your SIs and then conversations that you and your manager had about your performance from the quarter before, right? You're brainstorming, you're ideating, you're also grabbing multiple pieces of data and putting it all together. You're doing all of this in chat, okay? And then when you're ready to build it, you have the outline already done in chat that you're gonna take over into Claude Cowork and actually have it build the presentation there. That way, ideation, low consumption cost, building high consumption cost, but you're not spending your tokens using Claude Cowork to ideate for you. That's not its best use case anyways. It's a building feature, so build with it. Those were 4 tips in order to help you stop hitting your limit with Claude. Come back tomorrow because I'm doing a part 2 to this. And drop any questions you have in the comments below and I will make sure I get to them.